Hello, this is Miles Tullo bringing you the JD Power Financial Services Intelligence Update for November 2024. This month, I'm excited to bring Jennifer White back to discuss JD Power's newest research on bank and credit card fraud. Jennifer is the architect behind this new research and has joined me today to share some insights. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thanks, Miles. I'm excited to share information around how to protect our bank and credit card customers against those bad actors out there trying to get us.
Well said. So, there are many ways to examine fraud in banking and payments and get after those bad actors. Can you explain the approach that JD Power has taken?
Most definitely. So as we started thinking about the important ways that our financial institutions can help protect their customer base, we realized there were really two stages to take into consideration. What they can do ahead of bad action occurring, ahead of fraud, to make sure that customers are positioned as strongly as possible to keep themselves safe. And then once the bad actor does intervene and fraud occurs, then the question becomes how quickly can it be resolved with the least amount of friction for the customer. We decided to measure both of those within one study as independent metrics.
Very interesting approach. Why this way versus looking at actual fraud rates or the individual experiences of fraud that are so commonly seen?
We do get into fraud rates and we can measure incidents and we can measure the incidents by the type of fraud. But what we wanted to do is make sure that we also understood how comfortable customers felt ahead of the experience, because we know that good fraud resolution, so good following bad, can yield really high customer experience ratings. It can actually end up with the customer being happier with their financial institution than they might have been had the fraud never occurred. So we wanted to take a look at the full continuum of the experience of protecting customers so that we understood everything that influences the ultimate end outcome.
All right. So with that backdrop, what surprised you most about the results?
There's a lot in this study, but I think there's three key things I'll talk about. First is that most consumers believe that they have protected themselves, that they've taken action in the last 90 days to keep themselves safe. But the reality is they're most often doing some of the wrong things. So first and foremost, about a quarter have done nothing in the last 90 days to keep themselves safe. And then another third think that their best action is just reviewing transactions after they've occurred, that type of reactive type of evaluation. But there's a lot of things consumers can be doing, from making sure that their mobile app is the right version or setting up two-factor authentication. Steps that are being done too infrequently today that actually result in higher protection rates. I think a second surprise is in the actual fraud incidence rates. You mentioned, being able to track that. 29% of U.S. consumers told us in the last 12 months they experienced bank fraud. So that's not even getting into the credit card side. And the surprise there is that when we think about what is the most frequent type of fraud, it ends up being P2P transfers or debit card issues when it comes to banking. And as a result of that, because of their higher usage, I think it'll surprise many to learn that the under 40 population is actually at greater risk of fraud than their older peers. I think the third big surprise is who consumers blame when all this occurs. For those of us in financial services, we put a lot of blame on ourselves, and we think that the consumer is going to blame the bank or that P2P actor, when the bad thing occurs. But the reality is first and foremost, they blame the fraudster. And after that, they actually blame themselves in higher numbers than they're blaming the bank. And I think that gets to kind of our hypothesis that a good coming after the bad can actually improve a relationship, because the bank itself isn't considered the big bad wolf in the scenario.
Now, that's so interesting. Despite what you see commonly spoken about, and despite the fact that consumers are blaming themselves for this fraud, I assume they want banks and credit card issuers to do more. Is that the case?
Oh, of course they do. They do. And some of the highest performers in the study do one key thing. They have these guided experiences that help customers feel comfortable. So you could call them security centers. That's the name we at JD Power have kind of labeled them. They can be range from a landing page that just lists the best steps a consumer can go through, or they can take the consumer through this guided experience where you're going through let's say top 5 best actions. And once you do them all, you get a little logo saying you've protected your account. Either way, those high performers are making sure that customers know that they're doing the best actions they can do to keep themselves safe.
Got it. So if there was one thing that consumers wanted banks and issuers to know they need to do better, what do you think that would be?
I think what is key for the banks and credit card issuers to understand is the value that the customer places on when the financial institution are the ones who notify the consumer that they've been a victim of fraud. So if they are either offering an alert that something could be wrong, or the one who says we have bad news to tell you, when that financial institution is the one who informs the consumer, satisfaction with the whole experience is significantly higher, and customers are more likely to find the ultimate outcome of the scenario, as bad as it is, to be more positive and leave with a more positive impression of the financial institution.
Well, your research is always enlightening. Thank you, Jennifer, for bringing us this important new research and talking with me about it today. The JD Power Financial Satisfaction Study is available now for our subscribing customers. More details are in the post, including a link to sign up to receive our press releases from all of our studies. I'll be back in December to discuss findings from our brand new Affluent Client Trends Report. This is an exciting new analysis where we explore affluent client satisfaction across their banking and wealth management relationships. Thank you again, Jennifer. We'll see you all later.